Welcome to Significant Brothers. I'm Chase.
I'm Cray.
And I'm Brad.
Hey, wait a minute. Who's she? Who are you?
I'm Anna.
We have a sister.
And today on Significant Siblings, we'll be talking about Broadway.
Broadway!
Welcome to the show, Anna. Thanks for being here. We understand that you have a topic that you would like to talk with us about, which is...
Broadway. Yeah, so, like, the difference between the different type of Broadways is, like, the number of seats.
Oh, so, like, not to get into your guys' parts, but off-Broadway and off-Broadway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, most of, like, them are, like, the real Broadway ones are in the theater district in Manhattan.
Which is...
Like, an area in Midtown Manhattan where most of the, like, Broadway theaters are.
So wait, Broadway that's a universal theatrical term now? Like, I guess, like, would you classify mine as like, oh, Brad, he was in an off-Broadway show? Or is it mostly...
Yours?
Yeah.
For those, Brad was in a play.
I'm an actor. I lived in New York.
Well, had your show been in New York, then I'm sure that would have been probably off-Broadway, but...
Because we have Broadway Grand Rapids. Or Broadway Chicago.
So are only the true Broadways in Manhattan, then?
I would say so.
But they don't, to be clear, they don't have to be, like, on the street Broadway for them to be considered a Broadway, right? Like, it's the number of seats in the theater.
Yeah, like, Broadway shows also travel.
Yes.
So, there's, like, Broadway shows in Chicago. But, yeah.
So, I guess we didn't even get into the thing. Why did you pick this topic? How involved are you in the theater?
Oh, I'm not that involved. I don't know. I was talking to someone about topics, and...
Who is this someone?
Um...
Was that any of us?
No, it was my teacher. And she was like, you like Broadway? Because I was talking about Hamilton with her. I don't know. Yeah, I really love musicals. So, most of, like, as you guys have seen in the movie The Producers, it's like, I kept thinking about that movie while I was, like, looking at stuff.
Me too.
Well, it was saying how investing in Broadway plays is, like, such a risk. But, yeah, because, okay, there's this league called the Broadway League, and it's, like, where all these, like, producers and, like, it's a group for Broadway, like, made up of owners and producers.
It's like a dark, smoky room.
Probably. And it's in New York, and also with, another group called the American Theater Wing. They, like, put on the Tony Awards, too.
So, would you say the league does? It's like a group of producers?
Yeah, like...
Like a guild?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, like, Broadway League is, like, made up of, like, the producers and stuff, and the American Theater Wing is, like, a group more that, like, helps with Broadway. They, like, do things like help out actors and help out theaters and stuff.
Does the smoky room of producers decide what is being performed that year? Because aren't there certain plays that are just constantly performed on Broadway?
Yes, there are. I don't think they, as a whole, like, decide what to put on. It's just, like, they might individually decide. Because they're, like, all individual producers and stuff like that.
What's the longest running play?
Phantom of the Opera, with 7,486 performances.
You've seen it, right?
No, I've seen, like, the live version on Netflix. It was actually just in Grand Rapids. My friend just saw it yesterday.
Oh, I thought you were going to see it.
I asked for tickets for my birthday, but apparently that wasn't a thing.
Side note, our parents love us. What's the shortest running play?
I don't know. Probably Springtime for Hitler.
Got any more facts?
Well, the Tony Award is, like, the Antoinette Perry Award for Excellence in Theater, and it was, like, named for the co-founder of the American Theater Wing. Yeah, I don't know. That's, like, really good to get. And Hamilton has 6 nominations, which is, like, that's really big deal. It's, like, the most I think anyone's been like nominated for it the most.
So, when was that founded? That award, or is it? It's just a big deal in the theater community.
The Tony?
Yeah, it's huge.
It's like saying, I guess the Emmy's a big award in TV.
I was trying to make conversation. I know what a Tony is.
Well, the group like American Theater Wing is like, it started in like World War One. Yeah, they were like this group of like 7 theater women, and they were like raising money like for relief, and then it just kind of like progressed into like different things, and now it's this.
So do you think most plays just kind of trickle out then? Does anyone like end on a high note? They're like, we're making so much money, but we're just gonna stop before we go down.
Probably not. I don't. There's this thing called the Actors Equity Association, and that's like specifically for live theater, and it's basically where they just like have rights. I don't know, cause like in probably I think
It's a union.
yeah, sometime I think it was in the 20s, they had like no limit of like how much they like could do. Like they were just like really burnt out.
5 shows a day.
Yeah. No, probably not that.
3 matinees.
It works that way, yes.
I mean, that's good they have that, but I'm surprised, like, I don't know much about Broadway, but I saw, like, the schedule of Hamilton that they have, I don't know, Saturday, Sunday shows, and Tuesdays, and matinees, and I'm just like, wouldn't you get sick of your songs at that point? I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there's some,
Yeah.
like, this stupid song.
There's usually like I think 8 performances a week, and they don't usually perform on Mondays.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy talk.
It's crazy. Well, now that we just talked about the most elite, we're gonna talk about the lesser off-Broadway.
Theaters have always existed off Broadway because, you know, that's kind of where the big... Because the classifications were for Broadway, they had to exist between this street, and in this little square. Anything not in there was not technically Broadway, so they put smaller theaters out there, usually fitting within the off-Broadway classification of theater size. Because really the only difference is Broadway are theaters 500 seats or more, 499 to 100 are off-Broadway, and anything smaller than that, I believe, is off-Broadway. Am I right, Chase? There's like this magical number between like 49 and 50 that, if it has that many seats, it's just something else.
No, that's it.
Oh, okay.
What is like the most popular or like well-known off-Broadway? No, off-Broadway.
Are you talking about something that started off Broadway, or is on the permanent stage of off Broadway?
Both.
Well, that depends on what you think the most popular Broadway thing. Because so many shows started off Broadway and then moved up to Broadway. Hamilton being one of them, which I think is.
Aren't they?
What?
Never. I thought they were like, is it this summer they were going to be moving to like actual Broadway? Or are they already on like actual Broadway?
They're already on actual Broadway.
Didn't know.
Mamma Mia, I think, started off Broadway.
Really?
Yep. There's a lot of them.
Wow.
But the longest running play in New York City, how many performances have they done?
7,000 something.
For Phantom? Yeah. 7,486.
Well, it is not the longest running one. That would go to Perfect Crime, a play about it's a mystery thriller play by Warren Monsey. It tells the story of Margaret Thorne Brent, a psychiatrist and potential cold-blooded killer who may have committed the perfect crime. Ooh. I'm not going to give away the ending because just in case anyone's going to go see the biggest play in New York City, or at least the longest running one with over 11,000 performances.
Holy cow.
I hear that is the most confusing play.
Yeah, people go in. I think that's why they come back, is because they don't really understand it. Like, the thing I was listening to, I was like, they hated it. But they can't figure it out, and that's like the mystery of it. Like,
Yeah, it's also been the same cast for the run of that play. At least the lady who stars in it.
yeah.
She like still performed like the day her dad died.
How long has it been?
Since 1987.
Yeah, so she's pretty committed to that bit. I mean, why wouldn't you? If you, it's not like theater's a pretty like hard area to get a job in, but actually, yes, it is. So if you,
You're serious.
so you have the same job since like 1987. I think, but like if I remember correctly too, like that's a very small off Broadway theater. Like she like collects the tickets and stuff and like sells concessions, and it's a pretty rinky dink.
Yeah, it's at the Snapple Theater Center on the corner of 50th and Broadway in Times Square. So it's still a good location.
Is that like the only like performance that's ever in there?
No, because there's 2 theaters in the theater.
Oh.
Or I should say there's 2 stages in the theater. There's one that's 199 and one that's 194. So either way, it's like, if you're going to see it, it's still a pretty intimate theater. I don't think it's black box. I think it's proscenium.
What does that
Can you
mean?
define those?
Black box. I really hope I'm not mixing these up. But it's kind of like, Cray, you saw my show.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how the stage juts out and you're surrounding it a little bit, or you can surround the stage so you see it from different angles. And proscenium is your classic high school.
You're facing the fourth wall.
Yes.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Off Broadway is it's either a stepping stone for up to greater and better things, or sometimes it's almost like a retirement for Broadway plays that aren't able to fill that 500 minimum capacity to be an actual Broadway play. Because I don't know, it's kind of it's in this weird stage right now, according to the thesis paper of a student I read. Due to the high, like, it costs like $250,000 a week to run a Broadway. Like, that's like
Is that true?
minimum. Yeah, between like lighting, rental, paying your actors, insurances, it's expensive to run it. And so when you can't really fill that capacity, they're like, okay, let's move down to off Broadway. And like, then you can advertise it as like the Broadway play of something, because it was a Broadway play, but now it's in an off Broadway place. And so tickets are usually cheaper. You don't have to pay the actors as much. You have a little bit more leniency with how many performances you're doing, because they're because it costs more money to do more performances, but spending more money doesn't always get you more money.
Sometimes you can only run 11,000 times.
That play is an enigma, and goodness, I want to see it now.
I do too. I'd love to see it.
Okay, all aboard. We're getting off Broadway. Where are you getting off, Chase?
Take me to off Broadway town.
Choo choo!
Do you guys remember when theater used to actually be about the acting and not the $250,000 a week plays that they put on? Now you have to have the constant strain of, producing a good play, I'm using air quotes, and paying the actors a living wage so that they can quotes again, so that they can feed their family, quote again. Anyway, so off Broadway had a bit of a, you said off Broadway started in the early 50s?
I think that's when they started classifying it.
Okay, so shortly thereafter, when that got the name off Broadway, 1958, it was probably about the start of off Broadway. It was kind of after they wanted to reject the whole idea of commercial theater and just do theater. And so there's this guy named Joe Sino who owned a cafe that he wanted to mostly have as a thing where artists could come and present their artwork and have exhibits there, and people could read like poetry. And it wasn't until someone after someone said, "Hey, why not have a space to let people act?" And he's like, "Oh, I guess that is a form of art. Yeah, how about people do that?" But that wasn't the initial reason why he opened up the cafe. He just wanted a space so people could express themselves. And it turns out people use theater to do that as well. So he opened up he opened up his doors to that. Nobody got paid. not even himself. In fact, he had to work second jobs in order to support himself because he was too busy putting on plays. And if you were in one of the plays, he wasn't much of a playwright. But if you were in one of his plays, you had to work in his cafe to help pay for that, because the way that they supported most of the shows was through the food and drinks that they sold at the actual cafe.
So did they sell tickets too, or?
No, shows are free.
Oh, I guess that explains why you had to work a second job.
We're rejecting commercial theater, guys.
All right, yeah.
We can't.
Bourgeois capitalists stuffing money down our throats.
Oh right, even for the first few years that they had plays at, it was called Cafe Sino, or Sino's Cafe. No, Cafe Sino. At Joe Sino's Cafe.
John Cena?
Brad, do it.
His name was John Cena.
So for the first few years, there wasn't even a stage that people performed on. They would just like take tables away and then make an open space. And then eventually they were like, it should probably be, if it's gonna be taken seriously as a theater, they laid down like milk cartons and like put like particle board on top, and that was a stage. That's all you needed in experimental theater. So obviously, like I said, it didn't really support itself that well because they didn't charge. They didn't give anybody money, including the people who were quote unquote producing the plays. And so one of the things that kind of made it, well, even like critics called it a pass the hat theater, because they would just like ask people for donations. And actually the people who got paid the most out of all of this were the cops, because it was not regulated. Like they were a cafe, they weren't a theater. So they like kind of were breaking rules by having plays there, so they had to pay the cops in order to so that was pretty much where all the money was going, was to paying off the cops, because
that's crazy, but still cheaper than a Broadway production, right?
Way cheaper than a Broadway production.
Cops come by pretty cheaply these days.
Eventually it was ended up being his downfall, was that no money was made and he couldn't support it. And then one of the big things was there are apparently, I didn't know this, there are national endowments, or like endowments that the government gives, or grants that the government gives to theaters, nonprofit theaters. That his technically wasn't a non-profit theater because they were trying to make money off of the food. So they were so behind the other theaters because they couldn't get the free money from the government, and they also couldn't keep the money that they had because they were bribing the cops. So they went under because they were just like they were pretty much triple off Broadway at this point. Like his particular cafe closed, I think, in like, I want to say the 70s, so it didn't last that like super long. There's still an off-Broadway thing now.
What like type of productions are like put on off Broadway like right now?
Right now there is, I think it just started running. So this is very like indie experimental. Couldn't have possibly made it. Okay, so yes, also I forgot to mention off Broadway is less than 100 seats in a venue. So if there was a need for more than 100 seats, it probably wouldn't be considered off Broadway. But like it was very avant-garde, where just weird and you wouldn't normally find it. So one that's running right now is called Gary Busey's One Man Hamlet, where it's a guy doing an impression of Gary Busey doing Hamlet as a one-man show.
Oh my god.
And I was
That
like,
sounds great.
that sounds like one of the best plays I could ever see. Yeah, so it's going right now on off Broadway if anybody's in the New York area and wants to go see it.
I hope Gary Busey makes a special like appearance.
I didn't see any reviews for it though, so because I think it's such a new play. Pretty much like anything went in off Broadway. If you didn't think there'd be an audience for it in off Broadway, then do it in off Broadway, because sometimes people wouldn't even show up to these shows, and Joe Cino would be like, perform for the room, and they would just do their play despite nobody being there. So there's Yeah, kind of like I have a weird respect for these people like doing something that was like so unconventional and like something that they knew that people wouldn't like, but they liked it, and that's why they got into theater in the first place. So it still exists now. Good on you, actors. So we've gone from Broadway, off Broadway, off Broadway. Craig, are you gonna do the triple off, or are you doing something else?
I am doing something else. I'm going way back to the 1800s. And this is like early Broadway before they called it Broadway. It was just kind of...
It was just theater on Broadway.
Yeah, it was on... It must have been on a few other streets because I don't think these were... It's mainly about a family involved in the theater back in the 1800s. So the first one is Edwin Booth. He was a very famous Shakespearean actor in the day. Some say he was probably the best actor or American actor in the 1800s, and some might even say that he was the best Hamlet actor in the world at that time. So, American guy.
Is he better than Gary Busey at Hamlet?
I don't know. Maybe not. I would really like to see that, though. Oh, yeah. So, for example, he set the record for the most consecutive Hamlet performances in a row, which is 101. Or at least that record lasted until 1922, until someone else broke that. I don't know who the current holder of most consecutive Hamlet performances are, but that's kind of what he was known for, is his Hamlet. His father, his name was Junius Brutus Booth, which is a pretty awesome name. I wonder if he actually played Brutus in Julius Caesar. We'll never find out. Well, maybe we could if I research better. So his 3 sons were Edwin, Junius Brutus Jr., and John Wilkes.
Booth!
Yes!
Oh!
Guy killed Lincoln.
Oh,
Oh, that's so good.
Was John Wilkes trying to do a live theater acting piece and accidentally brought a real gun to the theater?
And he accidentally went right behind Lincoln and shot him in the head. Yeah. It might have. He's like, oh, I thought this was a stage prop.
Sounds like something that would happen to me.
Darn it, brought my real gun. No, but the father, Junius Brutus, elder, I guess, he was also a very famous Shakespearean actor, very successful. And he started acting at the age of 17, and he emigrated to the U.S. with his mistress. He left his wife, and then he came to the U.S. with his mistress and had 10 children, 4 of which died. And I will only be talking about 3 of the children, because the other 3 are apparently not even interesting enough to have a Wikipedia article on them.
I mean, are any of us interesting enough to have a Wikipedia?
I guess not.
I'd be disappointed if I had 10 children and none of them had a Wikipedia article. I mean, like, what's the
He was very successful, but he was also an alcoholic, and oftentimes he would come to the stage and he'd drop lines, or there was this one instance where I think it was in Hamlet, he kind of just, during a scene, just left the stage, climbed up a ladder, and then, like, perched up there and started crowing like a rooster.
No, that's in the play, isn't it?
Yeah. And he kept doing that until his manager went and got him and took him off the stage. I would kind of like to see that. No, I feel like I'd feel very uncomfortable. But it would be a good story.
Especially if it was off Broadway.
Yeah, that would just be a normal day in off Broadway. And there's this other kind of weird instance with Junius Brutus Elder that he, for some reason, what the thing I was reading was saying he was writing to Andrew Jackson because he wanted 2 people who were being put to death for piracy. He wanted them to be pardoned. I was like, okay, so he's in the theater community. This must be like writing piracy or some intellectual property type deal. But no, they're actual pirates, and he wanted them pardoned. And I have no idea the connection between the two. But there he was writing to Andrew Jackson, and in his letter he writes like, if you do not do this, I will cut your throat whilst you are sleeping. So I guess just the whole killing presidents must run in the family or something.
Wow.
I know,
that's
but
funny.
So that's the father. The one of the brothers, Junius Brutus Booth Jr., he is relatively undistinguished compared to the man who shot Lincoln and the most famous Hamlet actor of the day. John Wilkes was actually, before shooting Abraham Lincoln and before later being killed by Union soldiers, he was a famous actor as well. Even more distinguished than Junius Brutus Jr. After he shot Lincoln, Edwin kind of suspended his performances after a while because of his name was kind of tarnished. People didn't like that name. And then later in life, he founded the Booth Theatre, which, if you're looking in New York today, it's actually a parking lot. So it eventually got demolished, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, it sounds like an off-Broadway performance area.
It could be. It's found behind a dumpster. But after John Wilkes shot Abraham Lincoln, Edwin he dismissed his brother, he disowned his brother, he felt really bad. And then one day, Edwin was in a train station, and this guy was being pushed up against the...
I heard of this. Sorry, start up.
Edwin saw this guy being pushed up against the train, and then the train started moving, and basically he started to fall in the gap between the train and the platform.
He didn't mind it.
Yeah, he did not mind the gap. And
he did mind getting crushed to death.
And just in time, Edwin Booth lifted this guy up, and this guy was not... And this guy was none other than Robert Lincoln.
Who's he?
The son of Abraham Lincoln. He saved the son of Abraham Lincoln. So, and Robert Lincoln actually recognized Edwin Booth right away because Edwin was famous. And he's like, "Oh, hey, you're the brother who killed my... you're the brother of the person who killed my father."
This was after?
Yeah, this was after. So this was kind of like Edwin felt much better.
Sorry.
Edwin felt much better about himself after this situation because he's like, well, my brother may have killed Abraham Lincoln, but I saved his son, so I guess that's cool.
Did he start acting again after that?
I think so, yeah. I think he started acting as Booth Theatre before it went bankrupt, and then he started touring the world and everything. So, yeah, he had a good life. The Booth family, kind of funky. The Booth family, kind of wacky. I don't know, I'm trying to wrap it up.
Did they start a banana stand like Booth's Bananas?
They did not. They, I guess they kept on acting. I don't know if their children did, but... They're like the Von Trapp family of Broadway.
That was an Arrested Development reference for anyone.
That's the thing with references. People usually don't pay mind to the people who don't get them.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you want to follow all of our significant happenings, you can subscribe to our newsletter at tinyletter.com/significantbrothers.
If you want to tweet us, you can go to Twitter and look up @SignificantBros.
And you can find us on Podbean and iTunes. Just search Significant Brothers.
If you want to keep up on our significant happenings, you can sign up for our newsletter on tinyletter.com/
No, try it again. Just say tinyletter.com/significantbrothers.
tinyletter.com/significantbros.
Brothers.
Brothers.
Ah!